नमस्ते, हमेशा खुश रहो बेटिया। आई एम JVN Dr. Meenakshi, Assistant Professor in Department of Shalakya Chandra, Faculty of Ayurvedic Science, Jyoti Vidyapeeth, Women's University. Today we will discuss the anatomy of eyelid under part 1. There is a gross anatomy of eyelid. The eyelids are the mobile tissue curtains placed in front of the eyeballs. These act as shutters, protecting the eyes from injuries and excessive light. These also perform an important function of spreading the tear film over the cornea and conjunctiva, and also help in drainage of tears by lacrimal pump system. Then the parts of eyelid. Eyelid is divided by horizontal furrow or sulcus into an orbit and tarsal part. So here's an image of the eyelid where you can see the upper palpebral furrow, which have divided the eyelid into two parts, the orbital portion and the tarsal portion. And just like that, there's the lower palpebral furrow. Then the position of lids. When the eye is open, the upper lid covers about 1/6 of the cornea and the lower lid just touches the limbus. Then canthi. What is canthi? The two lids meet each other at medial and lateral angles, which are known as the outer canthi and the inner canthi. The medial canthus is about 2 millimeter higher than the lateral canthus. Then what is the palpebral aperture? It is the elliptical space between the upper and the lower lid. When the eyes are open, it measures about 10 to 11 millimeter vertically in the center and about 28 to 30 millimeter horizontally. Then we comes to the lid margin. It is about 2 millimeter broad and is divided into two parts by the punctum. The medial lacrimal portion is rounded and it is devoid of lashes or glands. The lateral is called the ciliary portion and it consists of a rounded anterior border, a sharp posterior border, and an intermarginal strip between the two borders. Two borders means the anterior border and posterior border. In between the two borders, there is an intermarginal strip. And there is a gray line which marks the junction of skin and conjunctiva. It divides the intermarginal strip into an anterior strip bearing 2 to 3 rows of lashes and a posterior strip on which openings of meibomian glands are arranged in a row. The splitting of the eyelids when required in operations is done at the level of the gray line. So you understood what is the gray line? Then next is the structure. Each eyelid is consists of various layers. So we study these layers from anterior to posterior. The first structure in the eyelid is the skin. The skin of eyelid is elastic, having a fine texture, and is the thinnest in the body. Then next layer below the skin in the eyelid is the subcutaneous areolar tissue. This subcutaneous areolar tissue is very loose and contains no fat. It is thus readily distended by edema or blood. Then the next structure we'll discuss. Here's an image in which they have shown the structure of upper eyelid. In the lower side, there is the opening of meibomian gland, and at the root of hair follicle there is Zeiss gland, and there is sweat gland, marginal arcade, meibomian gland in the tarsal plate. gland of Wolfram, peripheral arcade, Mueller's muscle, levator, gland of Cross, fat, septum orbicularis, orbicularis oculi muscle. Then the third layer in the eyelid is the layer of striated muscle. It consists of orbicularis muscle which forms an oval sheet across the eyelids. It comprises three portions: the orbital portion, the palpebral portion, and the lacrimal portion. It closes the eyelids and is supplied by a zygomatic branch of the facial nerve. Therefore, in the paralysis of facial nerve, there occurs lagophthalmos, which may be complicated by exposure keratitis. What is lagophthalmos? It is the inability to close the eyelids, and thus in the eyelid there is a striated muscle present called the orbicularis oculi, which is supplied by the facial nerve branch. So in case of facial paralysis, then patient suffer from the lagophthalmos. Patient is not able to close the eyelids, and when he is not able to close the eyelids due to exposure, there will be the inflammation of cornea. In addition, the upper lid also contains the levator palpebrae superioris muscle. It is called the LPS muscle. It arises from the apex of the orbit and is inserted by three parts on the skin of lid, anterior surface of the tarsal plate, and conjunctiva of superior fornix. It raises the upper lid and it is supplied by a branch of oculomotor nerve. Then the fourth layer in the eyelid is the submuscular areolar tissue. It is a layer of loose connective tissue, and the nerves and vessels, these lie in this layer. Therefore, to anesthetize lids, injection is given in this plane of submuscular areolar tissue, which is supplied by the nerves. It is anesthetized by the injection. Then the next layer in the eyelid is fibrous layer. It is the framework of the lids and consists of two parts: the central tarsal part and the peripheral septum orbital. I will show that in the image. The tarsal plate. These are two plates of dense connective tissue, one for each lid. Means in each lid we have a plate of connective tissue which gives shape and firmness to the lids. This is a function of tarsal plate. It is present to shape and provide firmness to the lids. The upper and lower tarsal plate join with each other at medial and lateral canthus. These two plates will join at the two canthi and are attached to the orbital margins through medial and lateral palpebral ligaments. In the substance of the lateral plates lie the meibomian glands in the parallel rows. Therefore, the meibomian glands are called the tarsal glands because they are present in the tarsal plates. Then in this image they have shown the tarsal plate and the septum orbital. Okay, the inferior tarsus, superior tarsus, and on the both sides they have shown the lateral palpebral ligament and the medial palpebral ligament. So next part is the septum orbital, which is also called the palpebral fascia. It is a thin membrane of connective tissue attached centrally to the tarsal plates and peripherally to the periosteum of the orbital margin. It is perforated by nerves, vessels, and a muscle called the levator palpebrae superioris, which enter the lids from the orbit. Then comes the sixth layer. The sixth layer of non-striated muscle fibers. It consists of the palpebral muscle of Mueller, which lies deep to the septum orbital in both the lids. In the upper lid, it arises from the fibers of LPS muscle, and in the lower lid from prolongation of the inferior rectus muscle, and is inserted on the peripheral margins of the tarsal plate, and it is supplied by the sympathetic fibers. Then the last layer of the eyelid is the conjunctiva. The part which lines the lids is called the palpebral conjunctiva, and it consists of three parts as we have discussed in the conjunctiva: marginal, tarsal, and orbital. So here completes the layers of the eyelids. So here our session completes with this slide. This session is powered by digital version 2.0 Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. I hope you are satisfied with my digital session. If you have any query, please mention in the comment box. I will resolve it. Thank you so much.
Namaste, Hamisha Kushro Bitia. I am JV and Dr. Minakshi, Assistant Professor, Department of Shalakya Tantra, Faculty of Ayurvedic Science, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. आज का हमारा टॉपिक है एनाटॉमी ऑफ कोरोइड. सो जो मिडिल वास्कुलर कोट होती है उसमें तीन लेयर्स होते हैं, आयरिस, सिलियरी बॉडी और कोरोइड. एंड थर्ड जो है दैट इज कोरोइड. कोरोइड इज द पोस्टीरियर मोस्ट पार्ट ऑफ यूविया व्हिच इज एक्सटेंडिंग फ्रॉम द ऑप्टिक डिस्क टू द ora serrata. Its anterior surface is smooth brown and lies in contact with the pigment epithelium of the retina. The outer surface is rough and lies in contact with the sclera. In this image you can see the choroid, which is the vascular cord, and it is beneath the sclera. Then microscopic structure of choroid from out inwards. It is a suprachoidal lamina. Firstly, the suprachoidal lamina is a thin membrane of condensed collagen, melanocytes, and fibroblast. The potential space between this layer and the sclera is called the suprachoroidal space. Second layer is the stroma of the choroid. It consists of loose collagenous tissue with some elastic and reticulum fibers containing pigment cells and plasma cells. In addition, vessels are found and are arranged in three layers. The first layer is a layer of large vessels, which is also called the halos layer. Second layer is a layer of medium vessels, the Sattler's layer. Third layer is a layer of choriocapillaries. And the third layer of choroid is the basal lamina. It is also called the Bruch's membrane and lines the layer of choriocapillaries. Here in this image you see the various layers of the choroid. And then comes the blood supply of the uveal tract. Actually, the choroid is a part of the uvea or uveal tract. Blood supply are short posterior ciliary arteries, and which are the branches of ophthalmic artery. It divides into 10 to 20 branches, pierce sclera around the optic nerve, supply choroid in segmental manner. And another artery will supply the uveal tract is long posterior ciliary arteries. There are two in number, nasal and temporal. They pierce the sclera. The anastomose with anterior ciliary arteries form major arterial circle, supply ciliary body. And then arteries which supply the uveal tract or anterior ciliary arteries. They are from the muscular arteries. There are 7 in number. 2 each for superior rectus, inferior rectus, medial rectus, and 1 from the lateral rectus. The anastomose with the LPCA. LPCA is the long posterior ciliary arteries. The surplus anterior, majors, and minor. Then the venous drainage of the uveal tract, uveal tissue, the vena verticosa, the vortex veins or the posterior ciliary veins. They are 4 in number. Superior temporal, inferior temporal, superior nasal, and inferior nasal. They pierce sclera obliquely on each side of the superior rectus and inferior rectus muscles about 6 mm behind the equator. As you can see in the image, the blue color veins are the vortex veins. These are the venous drainage of the uvea. The two superior vortex veins open into the superior ophthalmic vein and the two inferior vortex veins open into the inferior ophthalmic vein. They both drain into cavernous sinus. Then last point is the functions of choroid. The blood supply to the outer four layers of retina and modulation of vascularization, regulate retinal heat, assist in the control of intraocular pressure, pigment absorbs the excess light, so avoid reflection. Thank you so much. This session is powered by Digital Version 2.0, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. I hope you are satisfied with my digital session. If you have any query, please mention in the comment box. I will resolve it soon. Thank you so much.